But oh,
Have you just started playing HUD Showdown? Went on the settings and felt like that? Well, you don't need to worry about it anymore, cause Nadriel_TV is here for you. New hunters, welcome to HUD Showdown and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Nadriel_TV and I stream most weekdays on Twitch. If you want to follow me there, you can find all the links in the description down below. This video right here is gonna be the first in a series of videos called HUD Showdown Basics, and we will cover the very basic stuff that you need to learn when you are just starting out in HUD. It's not aimed at veteran players or players that have thousands of hours. It's really some information that not many content creators share, because I think we have forgotten how it was when we first started the game and the real good information that we could have had back then. So that's what I'm gonna try to cover. Let's get into specifics for this video. Let's just say that you just started HUD Showdown and you have kind of a poor performance. Well, we're gonna explain everything you need to do to get some better performance at the game, both from the settings and from Nvidia control panel if you have an Nvidia card, and some Windows stuff that you can change. We will also talk about sensitivities and your mouse DPI from your mouse software, and how you can play with those and find out what works best for you and your playstyle. And just to sum things up, this is like a guide for your first times playing HUD Showdown, and some settings that you can use and apply and immediately have some benefits, immediately start doing better in the game. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first things first, you're gonna see the game tab, and the first option is called Control Scheme. Here you have two options. It is Hunter or Gunslinger. The basic difference is on Hunter scheme, your guns are in the lowered state, which means that you need to press two buttons in order to aim down sights. In Gunslinger mode, you are already in shoulder aim, in hip fire mode, and you need to only press right click if you want to aim down sights. It also affects how you melee. As the description says itself, if you want to melee while in Hunter mode, you have to press the attack button. So if you press left click in Hunter mode, your Hunter will do a melee attack. If you press left click in Gunslinger mode, your Hunter will shoot. Second option is the FOV, or the default field of view. Now this is a very important option that is getting looked over. Now to put it in simple terms, if you have a low field of view, a small field of view, you will see a smaller part of the game in your screen, in your monitor, and your targets will appear bigger. The big con of this is that your Hunter seems to be going very slow, and yet that you don't have a good peripheral vision. Now with a higher field of view, you have a greater peripheral vision, but you will see hunters and AI and everything smaller, and it will actually make it harder for you to hit. So my recommendation would be to increase it, not leave it at 85, but play from 90 to 105, somewhere around there. I found the golden number for me to be 100. For the next two options, if you're a beginner in the game, I would suggest that you keep them on default. You don't need to mess around with those. Now, for shoulder aim input, it's clearly a matter of preference. If you want to hold down the button or just press it once. For shoulder aim, you can play around without and decide what works better for you. For aim down sights, I would suggest that you have it on toggle. so that you don't have to keep your both the buttons down if you want to be aiming down sights, because in hunter control scheme, you need to be pressing shift and right click to aim down sights, and you don't want to be pressing both of those buttons all the time. For the next option, sprint to aim transition, it's a matter of preference. It basically means what will happen when you interrupt your sprinting and press the button to aim. I would recommend shoulder aim, as it feels more natural to me. But you can put it to aim down sights. You can play around with that and decide what works better for you. The next options, the next two ones, crouch and sprint, are kind of a matter of personal preference as well. But for me, crouching, you should keep it on toggle, because you're going to spend some time crouching around. You don't want to keep your pinky on control where I have it, and I know a lot of us have crouching. And you don't want to be pressing it all the time. So you need to press it one time and your hunter will go into crouching. For sprint, it's the opposite. When you're sprinting around, you're making a lot of noise, so I guess you want to keep it pressed while you're sprinting and be able to immediately let it off if you need to stop running. So I would suggest having that on hold. We're moving directly into the HUD tab, because the next options of the game tab were the sensitivities. We're going to discuss them a little bit later when we discuss the mouse settings as well. So here, what do we have? UI scale. This is basically all the information that you will have in the game's UI, like the boss icons, like your health bars, your bullets, everything, how big they are on your screen. Now, I found that for me, they worked out best when they are really small. So 100 is the biggest size, 80 is the smallest. You can just check around and see what works best for you. Now, the 7 next options until indicator opacity right here are how visible all this information will be for you. I would suggest that you have everything on 100 when you start, because you want everything to be obvious and clear on your screen, so you can get acquainted with that. And later on, you can change it around if you feel it's too intrusive. But for the beginning, if you're a new player, just keep everything on 100. Now for the hide options, this is again a matter of personal preference, more or less. Basically, it gives you the option to hide some of the information after a little time. Information that is not important to be all the time on your screen. So the only one I have disabled is to auto hide the ammo display. Everything else I have it enabled, but you can change it around and find out what's best for you. You can even leave these options to default. It doesn't really make a difference. Now, show name of your killer as well, I have it disabled because I'm streaming and I don't want to see and show on stream who killed me. But the next option is really important. Now, highlight interactable objects. If you have played a little bit, you will realize that a lot of objects have a highlight around them. For example, if you're near a lantern, you will have a red highlight. If you're near a door, a sliding door, it will have a small highlight around it. And sometimes when you need to peek a closed door or through the shutters of a window, these highlights will really annoy you. So my recommendation is to use exclude doors and windows. Don't exclude all, especially if you're a beginner. Yeah. For the audio tab, there's nothing much really to talk about. I have music turned to 0 because I don't want to listen to the game's music all the time when I'm streaming. You can do all your audio devices here. You can set it up. You can select how your voice chat will work. I have it to push to talk, and I think that's the best option. You don't want to have it to continuous, and whenever you talk in your microphone, basically people in VoIP will hear you in HUD Showdown in the game, so don't do that. Now, mute VoIP on death is a really good option, especially if you happen to encounter some toxic pieces of human. So just mute VoIP on death. Hide VoIP actions, this is a matter of preference. This is basically showing a small name of your friend who is talking, or your enemy, whoever is talking, and you can hide it. I don't know why you would do that, but okay. Now, the ignore window focus is kind of self-explanatory. So do you want Hunt to be audible when you are doing something else in your background? When you're alt tab, you want to still hear what's going on in Hunt, then you can choose to do whatever you want. Now, for the audio input and audio output, for the audio input, you just put your microphone. If you have a headset microphone, if you have a microphone like this, whatever you have, whatever you use. And for the output device, you can put your speakers. If you're playing Hunt on speakers, then you might want to reconsider and use a headset. You can use your headset. If you have a headset, and it's the best to have a headset, use a headset, use a good headset. Audio is very important in Hunt Showdown. Yeah. Now we're moving over to the graphics tab, the really important stuff for performance. Now, resolution, keep whatever is the highest that your monitor can handle, unless you have a really weak system. So 1080p is my highest for my monitor, so I choose that. Now, window mode, a lot of people are playing full screen and it's fine for them. I have found personally that borderless is the best option. Now, render resolution scale. This is an option that is not really explained. It's basically the scale at which it renders the resolution. I don't really know what it does visually, but I found that if you reduce it by a little bit, it might reduce the stress on your GPU. So it might give you an FPS boost, but I don't really lower it that much, to be honest. Now, for video memory usage target, I put 90%. I think you should put the highest one available because that's what's gonna give you the best performance, honestly. Now to the really important stuff. If you want to put a global graphics quality, you can, and it can help you do it faster. But I have a couple of recommendations to make. For object quality. Now, this is really important for one reason. It determines the distance on which a lot of items will appear, but also hunters. So if you have that on low, you will not be able to see some hunters moving really far away. You will not see them at all. They will not render. If you have it on medium, you will see them at a good distance away. And if you have it on high, you will see them really far away. They will render for you. I recommend keeping this on medium if your system can handle it. Now, I would tell you to put everything else below object quality on the lowest option available. Texture filtering, I honestly see no difference when I'm changing this around. The biggest problem is honestly anti-aliasing. If you put anti-aliasing on off, the edges and the jittery stuff around the game might seem awful and your eyes might hurt, but honestly it will give you a huge performance boost. I recommend either having it to 1x or 1tx. I'm having it on 2tx because it provides a better image quality for my stream. Everything else, keep it on low. Effect and post-process quality, keep it on off. Performance stats, this is basically what it appears on the top right corner of your monitor. It basically gives you your FPS, your ping, and if you put it on more detailed stuff, you will get extra information. VSync, I don't use it because it causes some issues. And max FPS, you would either want to have it unlocked or have it at your monitor's maximum FPS. Now, my monitor supports 240 Hz, but I feel that the game doesn't often go above 180, so there's no reason why I should keep it unlocked. Depth of field. Depth of field, honestly, for me, it creates problems, so I don't use it ever. And there's also a bug where you have to reset your depth of field, but that's not for now. And motion blur, I generally hate it. If you like motion blur, you can use it. But that's it for graphics in game, really. If you happen to be wondering right after you did this, why should we have all these options low while this game is such a stunning, beautiful game and we cannot admire its beauty and its graphics? You're absolutely right. The thing is, CryEngine is a bit weird for a multiplayer game, and you will 100% be in a disadvantage even if your system supports it. Even if you have a 3080 with a 10900K processor, you will still have some stuttering, you will have some FPS drops, and those will affect PvP as well. So you are in a disadvantage at PvP. That's why I'm suggesting that you make these changes. For the advanced settings, I found that they don't create so many problems or so many differences. This is what I have enabled. So surface format optimization, because it can improve GPU performance, and I actually found that it kind of does. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm not 100% sure with anything in this game. GPU tessellation, I don't have it enabled, especially if it costs me GPU performance. 2-pass rendering scene and 2-pass lighting, these both mention that lower end GPUs might not handle it that well. So if you have a lower end GPU, keep those off. If your GPU is something like a 1080, a 1060, 1070 and above, I don't think you should keep them off, and I don't think they will affect your performance. Now, key customization, this is something also that is a matter of preference. If you have some keys that you use in other games and other FPS games that really help you and you're used to them, feel free to do it on HUD Showdown. One good advice that I am not doing is to separate the vault and jump. Now, in HUD Showdown, if you played a little bit, you might have noticed that you can jump like normal jumping, and you can vault over objects like a fence or something else. Now, in default, those two actions have the same button, but you will find, if you play some more, you will find some situations where you will actually just want to jump to avoid a shot, or, you know, jump next to the next place. But instead your hunter will vault because there was an object in front of him, a fence, balcony or whatever. So I had many unfortunate deaths because of that. So I would recommend you, while you're still a beginner, while you're still not so much used to this mechanic, separate your vault and your jump, and maybe keep the jump on space and put the vault on V. That's what I've heard a lot of people do, and it works really good for them. Now, for me, the only real change I've done is change my consumable 1 and consumable 2 to mouse 4 and mouse 5, because consumable 1 and consumable 2 are actually in the 7 and 8 position. So it's could be really hard to go and press 7 or roll with my mouse wheel until 7 if I want to use a vitality shot. So I'm using vitality shots on my first consumable slot, and I'm using mouse 4 to bring them up immediately and use them. That's also something you need to consider. If you have some consumables that you really like to use, bind them to a mouse key. Now let's talk about sensitivities, mouse DPI, and in-game settings for your mouse, and how you can optimize that being a beginner in HUD Showdown. Now, most people that have been playing for a while use low DPI and small sensitivities. The reason behind this is that HUD Showdown weapons have sway. They are not guns like CSGO, for example, that you aim somewhere and the gun doesn't move. The gun moves, and it moves a lot. So since the gun is moving while you're aiming, it is way better and way more efficient to have a smaller sensitivity, so that you can do some precision aiming without shooting 10 meters away from your target, for example. Now, let's see some examples. First of all, you need to set up your mouse sensitivity, your mouse DPI from your mouse software. If you have any kind of brand mouse, which most of us have, they have a dedicated software that you can change your DPI. Let's see some examples. Corsair, for example, this is their software, and this is where you can change your DPI. My DPI right now when I'm playing Hunt is 800. I would suggest that you use around 1000 and maybe lower than 1000 depending on what you also use in game. We will see a little bit of that later. The Steel series mice have this software. This is where you change your DPI, your sensitivity, and you have two profiles. It doesn't have two different sensitivities at the same time. It just has two profiles, so you can still have your sensitivity that you had before playing Hunt, the sensitivity that you play in your other games, but you can make a new profile for Hunt and change it to that when you're playing it, so that you don't have to adjust the DPI every time you want to play a different game. This is another example. This is the example of how the Razer Synapse works for Razer mice. And let me show you my own. I have a Glorious Model D mouse, and this is all the profiles and the DPI. As I told you, I'm currently playing with 800. So keep it around 1000 and you should be good. Now for the in-game sensitivities, the default value for all of those will be 1. So just think about this. If you have 1000 DPI and you have 1 on your sensitivities here, it means that you have 1000 DPI sensitivity in the game, and that's it. Clear. It's a 1-to-1. You understand? If you have 800 in your DPI and still 1 on your in-game sensitivities, it means you're playing with 800 DPI. Now, don't make me go into much math, but in general, you want to have your in-game sensitivities lower than your DPI. Now, if you don't want to be confused, you can just set your DPI to like 600, and that will be, if you keep those, the default and shoulder aim at 1, you will just play with 600 DPI when you have the default sensitivity. So when you're just looking around and where you're shoulder aiming, there's not much of a difference, especially if you're not using the zoomed version of the shoulder aim. But what is really important is your aim down sight sensitivity should be a bit lower than your default one, because your aim down sights is a bit zoomed in. So you also want to lower your sensitivity a bit for better precision aiming. And the next thing, all these scopes that you see go from the distance they zoom in. So the Deadeye scope is the smallest of the scopes, so it gives you the a smaller zoom, let's say. So this one needs to be kind of high. I have it 10 less than my aim down sights. The Marksman scope zooms in a bit further, so I have it 5 less than the Deadeye scope. You can even go to 40. You can go to 10 less and you will be 5. The Sniper scope has a very big zoom, so that's why I have it half from my aim down sights, because with the Sniper scopes, if you want to do precision aiming and you have the same as your aim down sight, your shots will go all over, especially when you try to hit moving targets. The aperture, if you play the aperture, if you like it, this one is on the Nitro and the Winfield aperture guns. I don't want to know you. I don't want to have anything to do with you. I don't care. But if you want to use it, just put it like 20 below your default, okay? For the last part of the video, I just want to show you one setting from your Windows, and that is a mouse setting. You just press mouse here, you go to mouse settings, you go to additional mouse options, and you go to pointer options. Now, you need to disable the enhanced pointer precision. This has caused a lot of problems to some people, so I would advise you, if this is enabled, just disable it. Last thing, and this is only for the Nvidia GPU users. I'm sorry if you're using an AMD one, I don't know how to help you, but I imagine there's a very similar option in that software as well. A very, very important thing for Hunt Showdown that I would say changed my game 20%, my performance, without any additional changes in the 3D settings, is going here in the adjust image settings with preview and using this option, use my preference emphasizing performance. Just apply that, and I can guarantee you, just by this option, if you touch nothing else, this will give you a performance boost. That was really everything for your settings. If you're just starting to play HUD Showdown, I believe those will really help you. They will give you a performance boost. You will find you will be hitting your shots more consistently if you were using higher DPI in your mouse. If you did like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel, and you can click also on the bell. It helps me really a lot because I'm building my channel up at the moment, and every support is really important, and I'm grateful for it. As I said, you can find me live on Twitch, where I stream most weekdays. You can ask me anything on my live stream as well. And also, if you have any other questions, feel free to share them in the comment section below the video. I hope you have great hunts. Welcome. And this is an amazing game, and I hope you really enjoy it. Much love.